Flippin' and rippin' and slippin' and sippin' it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to John Dudley Speaks. I'm your host, Bobby Tarantino. Maryland rapper Logic burst onto the scene after a series of mixtapes gave him the opportunity to sign with Def Jam, instantly rising to the challenge with his glorious debut, Under Pressure, in 2014. A mix of classic boom bap and modern hip-hop, Logic was a breath of fresh air full of energy and reflection, and 2015 brought us The Incredible True Story, a classic concept record in my opinion that doubles down on the debut's formula, but tweaked the knob to indulge maximalism a tinge more than before, leading to hits like Young Jesus and Fade Away. After a mixtape detour in 2016 with Bobby Tarantino, Everybody was released in 2017. Continuing a conceptual arc, and though not the greatest in his discography, it did feature a pop sensibility that led to the smash hit 1-800-273-8255. The late 2010s found Logic's music and vision dip in quality, eventually leading to online ridicule and critical derision even, so consequently Logic announced his retirement with a final album, Under Pressure, which was released in 2020, and unsurprisingly, it was one of his best. But of course he wasn't done. The Bobby Tarantino trilogy closed in 2021 to a diminishing effect, but it was really these last couple years where Logic has proven that he still has it with the throwback nature of Vinyl Days and College Park. So now with Ultra 85, we're getting a Logic that's throwing it back even further, implementing a kookier, looser feel to his usual boom bap flair. And you know what? It makes me so glad he didn't retire. 6 handles the production across the majority of this thing, and for the most part, it really suits Logic's themes and delivery quite well, even if it does run itself into a wall at times. The Calvin Harris retro-futuristic funk flavors on Fear weren't my favorite, and the SoundCloud-inspired trap on Antidote is overly compressed, coming across as a YouTube rip of a Lil Peep type beat, and the alt-rock touches across the track listing fail to dive enough into the aesthetic to warrant their presence, so those flourishes feel a bit tacked on. Outside of those criticisms, I thought the production here was fairly consistent, with the mix of the crashing drums, the samples, and the siren sound effect on Paul Rodriguez giving us an authoritative musical start to the project. The staccato keys are a nice addition to Mission Control, which screams DJ Premier, and Deja Vu suitably sounds like its title, harkening back to 2014 Logic with droning vocal samples that come across as slick. 44 Ever pulls off the modern trap beats better than Antidote, but then conversely, 6 and Logic absolutely crush it on the backing instrumental layers of the throwback-inflected Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So although it's bound to spiral out of control in terms of sonic palettes with such a big track list, the core structure of these production stylings, when given time to develop, are handled with the utmost care. Given the fact that Logic has been working on this project since 2017, there's a huge risk in pushing the release of a project that might be dated by the time it comes out. But on the lyrical front, Logic ensures that's not the case. He leaves his everybody approach to songwriting back in 2017, and strongly focuses on what makes a compelling central song idea, leaving us with some of his best storytelling and lyricism to date. Paul Rodriguez is instantly a top 5 song in his discography for me, with Logic brilliantly tackling the expectations and apprehensions head on, while putting on a clinic and being able to swiftly shift between cheeky wordplay and personal anecdotes. I mean, for 9 minutes straight, he goes in without a bar wasted, hitting home on the themes about wanting to make his mark in the rap game, and plunging us into the world of Ultra 85 as confidently as possible. Now, obviously, no other track here comes close to the lyrical wizardry on Paul Rodriguez, but make no mistake, Logic makes bold attempts to come close to it. Teleport is one of his most vulnerable lyrical feats. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is versatile and unstoppable in its ability to capture Logic's singular perspective, and Gardens 3 is emblematic of the hero's journey in the best way, playing into the cinematic vibe of the record. There are times where I think that Logic tries too hard with the lyrical miracle verbal rapid fire, which does mimic the unseriousness of Eminem in the 2010s, but the only time that I found it unappealing was on Fear. Otherwise, I feel like he can just miss times where he could connect thematically rather than favoring ingenuity and wordplay, which isn't bad by any means, but it can hinder the overall project from coming together in the way that it intends to.
Okay. Take 113. I was gonna say, yeah.
Save for a couple moments in his discography, Logic can never really be accused of phoning it in or having a horrendous performance, and that trend has been evident since his comeback on Vinyl Days. Here on Ultra 85, that energy is dialed up even more, with his sheer presence on the track turning out to be confident and passionate and incredibly invested, and that's never more apparent than it is on Paul Rodriguez, which could quite possibly be his magnum opus. He just attacks his flows with vigorous attention to detail that's refreshing and exciting, and it's amazing to see him carry that through the remainder of this project. Mission Control, Deja Vu, Blue and Favela are wondrous reminders of the intersection of smoothness and intensity that he brings to the mic. But then there's Teleport, and in retrospect, that find him in more of a vulnerable state that, as he's grown, feels more earned. I didn't think Antidote with Z-Loopers was a pairing that worked, and his rapping on Fear borders on overdoing it, but outside of that, he closes this long gestating epic story strong, with a run of inspiring cuts that understand his allure to a T. The longest project from Logic by a slim margin, Ultra 85 hardly feels like it, which can be to its advantage and its detriment. First and foremost, the quality of these tracks is consistent, providing engaging work from Logic that fleshes out the concept better than most rappers of his caliber can do. But there are moments here that just feel ultimately forgettable, so a third of this 20-song track listing kind of floats by without any staying power. It's a similar problem that College Park had in that the sequencing is a bit chunky, so Logic saves the big musical ideas for certain parts of the album, but the midsection has fluff and filler that hinders the progression. And of course, I'm not saying that these are bad songs. Honestly, there isn't a bad one here. But when lesser tracks like Antidote are sandwiched between Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Teleport, it takes you out of the flow of what Logic's trying to say. Luckily, this is the least of the album's issues when he's reaching heights like peace, love, and positivity. So while there are lackluster patches, Logic comes through in the end with an overall enjoyable result. This is a terrific showing from Logic that blends the modern success of his post-retirement era along with his vintage 2010s boom bap, and it's a heavenly mixture that's just, bottom line, fantastic, consistent rap with skill and fireworks. But hey, that's just my perspective. If you're a Logic fan, you gotta spin this one right now. It's a solid record. And if you want a sci-fi novel tie-in full of ambitious yet familiar instrumentation with a killer performance from Logic, you need to check this out. Alright, that's all I got. Bye!